I didn't give up on myself. It was taking me so long where it was all right, like, yeah, he's not coming back. Like he's done, And I told myself, I'm like, I'm not going to let that happen. Like I refuse to let that happen. I refuse to just be written off. Like, no, not gonna happen.
But thank you for tuning in to the Roughnecks podcast. I'm your host, Cole Nixon. I'm a senior at Ohio Wesleyan University in Delaware, Ohio, where I also play football. Just about every week on this podcast, I try to bring on guests who are viewed as leaders and motivators in the world of coaching, business, and just life. I talk to them and they share some advice for all of us. You can catch a new episode every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to follow the Roughnecks Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. You can find us on Instagram at Roughnecks Podcast and Twitter at Roughnecks Pod C1. If you ever want to contact the Roughnecks, then message us on social media or email at roughneckspodcast@gmail.com. Let's get into this week's show. Joining the Roughnecks podcast for episode 14 is someone by the name of Richie Worship. I have actually never met Richie, but Chris Bonner, who you can hear featured on episode 6 of the Roughnecks podcast, actually contacted me after we recorded and was like, hey, I have a guy you might like. Richie went to Valley Forge High School, where he played football with Chris along with Joe Urich, who you can also hear on episode 4. After high school, he was lucky enough to go on and play at the next level with a scholarship to Purdue University. He played in many games and was even lucky enough to get some starts for the Boilermakers. Unfortunately, his career was cut short due to an injury. He shares some insights on handling that injury, as well as some stories about his football career. Excited to share my conversation with Richie Worship. Mr. Richie Worship, welcome to the Roughnecks podcast. It's kind of crazy. We've never even met each other in our lives, but through Chris Bonner, he reached out to me after episode 6 and said, I got this guy that I know, and I've heard a lot about you. I went to college with Chris and Joe, so I know both of them pretty well, and I've heard about you, and I've never met you, but it's kind of crazy that we've never met each other, and here you are doing a podcast with me. A good show. It's what kind of person you are, and I really appreciate you joining the show.
Oh, yeah, no, I appreciate you. Thank you for the opportunity, man. And like you said, it is kind of crazy. We never met, but Joe and Chris are two good guys. Grew up with them, play high school ball with them. But no, definitely, would probably know that, we grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, played at Valley Forge, home of the Patriots. Our records weren't really the best, but, it was a team and we were a family and we played our butts off for each other,
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit about the Valley Forge. Just give me a little background on yourself, from Valley Forge to where you're at now.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, playing at Valley Forge, I would say, our schedule was, we had some tough teams. We didn't have the outcome that we would like, for all 4 years over there. But, God willing, I was able to get recruited and had multiple offers to play D1 ball, and just from there, I decided to go play at Purdue, had full ride there. And, that I will say that was a blessing. My high school coaches believed in me. My teammates believed in me. I had a good support system just coming from Valley Forge.
Like I said, I played with Joe and Chris, and no offense to them, but they don't have the athletic talent that you had. Or still do have probably, but we anytime they'd talk about high school football and we'd be hanging out, your name would come up. Just give me a rundown, what's the recruiting process like? As somebody who's getting recruited D1, you probably, I feel like you get more contact than because I like D3. So what's the recruiting process like? What are some of the coaches that you met too through that process?
Yeah, definitely. No, it's it's crazy. It's
I saw one of your posts on Instagram from your Instagram where you just had I think you moved and you had a ton of just mail.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's what I said. It's definitely the recruiting process. It's definitely a fun time. You know what I mean? And I would say, for anybody that's going through it, enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely awesome. But like you said, because I remember plain as day. I was going into a junior year of high school, and I got my first official offer. It was from Toledo. Coach Tom Manning, he contacted me and, said he had offered me and everything, and it was awesome. And I just remember right after I got that offer, it was just offer after offer after offer, as if like they kept talking, and it seemed like as if the schools were talking. Oh, well, they offered that kid. Well, we're going to offer him too. Like, but no, it was awesome though. It was, and it just before you know it, I had 10 plus offers. Majority was all MAC schools. Through that process, I'm sitting there, and I never been through that whole recruiting process. My coaches really wasn't familiar with it either. And, so I'm kind of sitting there like, man, like, I don't know what to do. Like, man, this is crazy and stuff like that. My coaches and my family stayed with me like, hey, just breathe, keep doing what you're doing, keep playing ball. Don't focus on it too much. Just focus on the now. You know what I mean? But no, it was definitely fun. It was definitely awesome. And then through that process, like I said, the majority of it was all MAC schools. I had then the one big offer that I had was, Purdue. And to be honest, when I got recruited and offered, I honestly had no clue where Purdue was, didn't know the mascot, didn't know anything. And and I remember I was talking to my mom, like, Mom, I'm like, Purdue University offered me. And she was like, that's great. And I was like, I don't know where that's at. She was like, boy, it's in Indiana. I'm like, oh, I didn't know, And no, but it was great. And then I was going into my senior year, I had a pretty good season my junior year. And I decided to actually commit before going into that senior year, just so I have, some weight off my shoulders and be good to go and just focus on that senior season. And that's when, I committed to Purdue. I loved it there, loved the coaching staff. They made me feel, really at home, felt like it was a very strong family connection there, you know what I mean? And it was just little things where majority of that mail was from Purdue, saying happy birthday or, hey, you had a good game Friday, yada, yada, just little things here and there, just to, kind of check in with me and just seeing how everything was going.
What's that atmosphere like, that first time you walk on campus at Purdue? Did you go on a game day visit there, I'm assuming?
Yes, I did. Yep. Mm-hmm.
What was that like feeling? Because you're 17, 18 years old, and you're sitting there like, wow, like this is crazy. So what's that feeling like?
Man, I get the best way to describe it is like a movie. I got there on the campus, and the campus looked like a stereotypical college campus. I'm like, man, like the big, huge, older looking buildings. Then you got the newer, modern buildings and stuff like that. I'm just like, man, this is crazy. And then, if you knew where Valley Forge High School was, it was the complete opposite of just humongous buildings, bunch of people walking around. It was awesome. And it was funny because it was like everything was picture perfect, like it was a sunny day outside, nice outside, everything went perfect. And, you had everybody greeting you, saying, like, hey, how you doing, Richie, yada, yada, and you kind of get your, personalized tour of the campus and stuff. And my parents were with me, my mom and my dad was with me. And, just kind of just showing us around campus. And, they kind of already asked, information prior to me going like, hey, what do you think you may be interested in going there, And at the time, to be honest, I had no clue. I had no clue what I wanted to go to school for.
Most people like don't. And even when they decide the first time, it probably isn't what it is. It ends up being.
Exactly. Exactly. You're absolutely right. And so, it was just awesome. That day was just awesome in general. Of course, they got all the spotlight on you and showing you this and that. Then the best part, you get to the actual field, take you out on the field, staying there. Like, imagine, you playing in front of thousands of people, packed out and everything. Just the whole experience in general was awesome because, they make you feel really special. Like, hey, like, you're the top guy that they want. And so it was awesome. It was awesome just to get that pampering treatment for the day.
So what ultimately made you decide to go to Purdue?
At the time frame, it was Coach Hazel that was there. And the biggest thing to me where I noticed, which was awesome, out of all my offers, they were all position coaches that offered me, and I can actually say Coach Hazel was one of, I think actually only two, there was two head coaches that actually talked to me. Coach Hazel was one of them. And not only that, it was just, he asked me in general, like, we did talk about football a little bit, but I noticed most of his conversation was, what did I plan on doing besides football? What I'm going to do at the university, and by this time, I did a little bit of research and, figured out, okay, like, well, academically, this is a pretty good school. So, if football don't work out, I'll be good to go. I noticed he was really, locked into, the man that I will become and like, who will I be not as Richie the football player, but like, Richie as a Purdue graduate, you know what I mean? And so it was awesome. It just, that made me feel wanted, and, that it just wasn't somebody wanting me for my abilities, which was pretty cool.
Man, that's kind of crazy because I look at because I go to Ohio Wesleyan's currently, and when I decided to go there, it's almost the same thing. Like he was one of the head coach was one of the only head coaches to actually like sit down, have a conversation with me, and it wasn't just about football; it was beyond that. So it goes to show, if you're a coach out there listening to this, the head coach, it goes to show when you talk to your players, the players you're recruiting.
Definitely, it goes a long way. It definitely goes a long way, because I feel like, especially coming out of high school, the number one thing that high school's athletes that I feel like they can relate to the most and what they want is that relationship. You know what I mean? Just that relationship feeling with their coach, because they're used to it for the past 4 years in high school. And I know you can attest too, once you make it to that next level of college, it's not as strong of a relationship base. It's more, production and what can you do and what do you bring to the table? Those aspects of the game. But yeah, no, definitely. I think it's a pretty good touch if, head coaches of these programs can reach out and just talk to these, these recruits and these athletes.
Yeah. And it could be a simple text. Like you said, it could be a simple, hey, happy birthday, little text like that. It goes beyond that. So what's that game atmosphere like? So when you finally get there in your freshman year, you get out there, what's that game atmosphere like when you run out there in front of thousands of people? Like how that's got to be something that's crazy, because I haven't played in front of a ton of fans like that, but I can only imagine what it's like.
My freshman year, I was actually redshirted just because we had a really good stud running back at the time. So I didn't dress, but I remember that first home game like it was yesterday. Oh man, who did we play in our first game freshman year? I want to say, was it Nevada? I want to say it was Nevada. My freshman.
That sounds about right, because I was looking at stats and stuff, and that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think so. But I didn't play, and then we, hit the field, doing a little warm up and stretch and stuff like that. But by this time, it's not really that many people. You have a few people sitting there here and there, because it's about 30 minutes before kickoff. So we're doing a pre-game warm-ups and stuff like that. Then we go back into the locker room. Coaches kind of give you that that hype speech and stuff. And by this time, like I said, I'm not even dressed. I just have the jersey on, because I'm sitting on the sideline. But my heart is racing. I'm like, man, like this is awesome. Like, I feel like I'm about to go out there and play. And and so you finally tell us, head out the locker room, and then they say, and now you're Purdue Boilermakers, and you hear the little train horn, and then we run out. And I just remember, just as we ran out, it seemed as if the whole stadium was sold out. Like it was just so much cheering and yelling. Like I was kind of just stuck. Like, wow, like this is crazy. And like I remember just running and like looking everywhere, thinking to myself like, please don't fall. You look stupid in front of all these people. It was awesome though. And I just remember this right before that kickoff. It was just so loud. I just felt the vibrations too, and I knew. First game is always going to have the most people just because it's the kickoff of the season. But that was a different feeling. It was a never forgettable feeling ever.
Going off that kind of, what's your favorite memory there? Of all your memories, we can go both like maybe socially and academically and football wise.
Favorite memory. Okay, man. Ooh, favorite memory at Purdue. I got to say my favorite memory is when it was my junior year. Now, we've always had a stud running back room, always. It was about 4 of us that battled every single day, that easily all 4 of us could have started. And the coaches knew that too. So, they found ways to rotate us all in. And majority of the time I did play fullback, fullback kind of like the utility guy. And I remember it was against Nebraska. That week against Nebraska, coach, at the time, Coach Barclay, he told me, he was like, hey, you're going to be starting this week. And I was like, wow, it was a home game. That was my favorite. This is my favorite memory there actually in Ross-Ade Stadium. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, like, ooh, this is your chance. Like, this is your chance to go big. And, I didn't have a bad game. I had a touchdown that game, a little under 100 yards off of 18 carries. But, I did have a couple highlights that game. And it was just awesome knowing like, hey, I got the opportunity to start and play in front of, friends and family and stuff like that, at this level. It just felt like at that time that all the hard work that I've been grinding and putting in, it finally paid off. But that was my most memorable moment and Ross City Stadium.
Yeah, like you said, you were lucky enough to be able to play and get in the end zone a couple times. What's that feeling like when you finally scored that first touchdown in college?
Yeah. So all I remember was, so it was unfortunately right after we switched coaches. We didn't have Hazel. Coach Brown came in, and we was kicking off the season against Louisville. And at this time, this is when Lamar was still playing.
Oh man!
So the whole time, we were just going in, just focus. Like, hey, we gotta keep them in the pocket, let them throw it. And their defense, they're very athletic, but we just gotta keep moving the ball. First down will be good. And I remember it was I want to say it was our third offensive series. I was in. It was red zone. I think we're probably about on the 11-yard line or so. And I had like a little responsibility. It was kind of like check blitz, and then if nobody comes, release out into a little bubble. I'm like, okay, cool. I checked, nobody releases. So I'm sorry, nobody blitzes. So I release. Get out to the flats, and I see the corner kind of come off our outside receiver and comes to break on me. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely covered. I'm not even an option to throw to. And I see our quarterback at the time named David Blau. He scans the field and he looks directly at me and he throws it. And in my mind, I'm like, crap, like this corner is about to take my head off. Just make sure you catch the ball. That's all you got to do, just catch the ball. Because I'm talking, he is flying downhill on me. And so I made sure I caught the ball. I kind of came back to it so he wouldn't have a direct shot on me. So I caught the ball, and I turned, and his angle was a little off, and he tried to, shoot at my knee, and I kind of like moved my knee out the way. And I remember it was just me in the end zone. It was two guys that were coming and meeting me at the goal line. And I just dove in, and it was a big collision, but I scored. And I just remember the crowd going crazy. And it felt like I had like an inner high going on, just energy and just all this emotion. And a true story, when I scored, I got up and I was just yelling and, celebrating with all my teammates and stuff like that. And I just remember like jogging back to the sideline, seeing my head coach, my position coach, they all happy. And like, I had actually started, I had like a little tear in my eye just because of like how happy I was. I'm like, man, like this really just happened. It was just awesome. But that was my most memorable, favorite touchdown moment ever, because we were on a national TV, playing against a great team, as everybody know now, a great NFL quarterback.
Exactly.
So it was awesome. It was definitely an experience I can't take anywhere else.
Did you play at any places that were like, did you ever play at like maybe a Penn State or like any of the, what was probably the toughest place you went and played at?
Yeah, definitely. Oh man. So Penn State was always tough. That was probably, I would say, the loudest stadium I've ever played in my life. I literally remember it was times where I was standing next to my quarterback before the snap, and I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear anything. It was nothing at all. And, I'm leaning in like, what are you saying? When he was, audible or during the cadence and stuff like that. And he got to lean into me. And I'm like, man, I'm right next to him. So I can only imagine how the offensive line feel or, the receivers, whatever. So, but that was the loudest place ever. But Iowa, I would say, have the toughest fans. The reason I say Iowa has the toughest fans because if anyone knows if they ever been to Iowa Stadium, it's about a good 6 feet from their sideline to the actual stands itself. So
nice.
It's not much space for the players to be on the sideline and then the actual field. You got the refs telling you, hey, stay off the sideline. So literally, like, the fans are sitting right on top of you. And I remember we were there playing and it was snowing. And the fans literally was throwing snowballs at us on the side. It was
so you got to, did you get to be a part of the wave then, though?
Oh yeah. So no, I wasn't part of the wave. I wasn't part of the wave though. But no, I wish it was though. But no.
I was told by Chris. He said I had to ask if you had any funny stories from high school or college. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be triggering an exact moment from maybe something with him, but he did tell me I had to ask that.
Man,
Chris
honestly,
being around Chris is a goofy guy, so there's always something probably funny happening.
He is. I got a story. Oh man, number one, it's too many to even talk about all in one sitting with high school. But the number one I'll bring up, and Chris know exactly what I'm talking about. Our coach, he pulled us all in, and it was after a practice. It was like an official, it was kind of like a walkthrough-ish practice. And he said, hey, we got a new guy. He's moving to the area. He's going to come to our school and he wants to play football, No joke. I remember this was yesterday. Our coach told, he's like, yeah, I think he's about 6'2", 6'3", 220. I think he wants to play linebacker. So all of a sudden, we're excited. We're like, yeah, like, awesome. Like, this is perfect. We need some size, to our team and stuff like that. And Monday come around, we looking for the new kid. All right, look for a 6'2", 6'3", 220-ish kid, like just looking around. Don't see him at all, And then we have study hall. And I noticed there was a kid kind of, sitting, because we had like assigned seats in study hall. And at the time frame where his assigned seat was, nobody was around him. So I saw him. And then I had one of my other buddies I was in study hall. I asked him, I was like, hey, I'm like, you know that guy? He's like, yeah. He's like, that's the new kid. And I was like, what do you mean the new kid? He's like, yeah, no, like that's the new kid that's trying to play football with us. And I was like, oh, that kid? Our coach said he was like 6'3", 220. What's going on? And so I walked up to Chris. I said, I was like, what's up? My name is Richie. I was like, he said, what's up? My name's Chris. I'm nice to meet you. I was like, are you playing football? He was like, yeah. I was like, what position? And he was like, linebacker. I'm like, okay. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then I know, and I feel it's one of those things where you can laugh off now because we're friends about it. But at the time frame, I know my face when I said that's awesome was not like a pleasant welcome. It was more like damn, like
you got all excited for this 6'2", nice football player coming in, and then it's Chris.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. But no, Chris is my guy, and he always played his butt off no matter what. We all know, he wasn't the biggest, but I wouldn't trade anybody else to be on that field with.
Yeah. He was actually my assigned big brother for football, like when I was a freshman in college. So I got real close with him. But yeah, you're right. He's a real good dude, and he will give you everything he's got.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's an awesome guy.
So we're gonna switch a little bit, go back to football. You experienced a knee injury in college. So give us a little bit like what happened there.
Yeah, definitely. So actually, the definition of a freak incident, to be honest. So we were going to play. It was the week of Northwestern. I want to say Northwestern, my junior year, right when I just got the starting job. And coaches was pleased with my performance and stuff. And I'm sorry, I take it back. We were going to go play Iowa. I take that back. And so we were getting ready for the game prep. And I'm a big person on practice. The way you practice is the way you're going to play. So I've always took practice 100%. And coach knew that too. And we ran our reps in practice pretty live, honestly. And it was one play that I was in inside. It was an inside run segment where I was the fullback. So, got a block coming downhill on a normal dive play, blocking the linebacker. And, I'm making my way through the line. And at the time, the line was a little mushy. Defense kind of went in, offensive line, defense line going back and forth, So I kind of did like a little hop step through the line because, legs were crossed and stuff just to get to that backer. And as I was seeing my play side backer actually overran the play. So he kind of took himself out the play. So it was the backside linebacker. And I knew the angle I was coming at, I was kind of a little bit ahead of him, so I had to peel back a little bit. So I planted my right foot down and turned to peel. And me and that backer, as soon as contact happened between me and him, I felt something in my knee, like immediately. It was like a snap, quick. And I kind of was like, at that point, I was like, I let go, like I didn't even try to do anything else. And by that time, I was right behind the defense line, the offensive line. So everybody got I basically got pancaked by our whole offensive line and defensive line. And that's when my knee got even twisted even more up under the pile. Ooh. And at that time, I knew it was a sharp pain. My knee felt like it was on fire, like literally like on fire. And then it went away. And I just remember, I'm like, all right, like just get up. You just tweaked it a little bit. You good. You can just take practice off for the day. You'll be fine by tomorrow. And I remember trying to get up, and I couldn't get up. And then that's when the pain started more. And then that's when the trainers ran on the field. grabbed me, took me over and carried me over to the little training table. And, they start doing a little test on my knee, and they saw how loose it was. And I seen on the trainer's face, like his look was like, yeah, like it's not looking good. So I knew, I was like, damn. And then, finally got all the MRIs and stuff like that. Come to find out, I tore my ACL, MCL. I even had damage to my PCL, and my meniscus was blown out too. So basically, I almost blew out the whole complete knee. So I was like, all right, well, here comes this rehab process, and it took me about 7 to 8 months to get back into just running in general. And then from that point, I started getting the cuts and stuff like that. And if I didn't play running back, I probably would have been back a little sooner. But, I just had to make sure I was comfortable with, the cuts and jumping and blocking and all that. Just basically jobs of a utility guy and stuff. And I just noticed as training going, he told me, he was like, yeah, you're going to feel a little discomfort, but you shouldn't feel any sharp pain. And those times where I would feel like throbbing sharp pain, like this isn't right. Like something is wrong in my knee. Like, I don't know what it is. Can I just, get an MRI just to be safe? Like, please. He was like, yeah, sure, definitely. So, we planned another MRI and come to find out that my actual cartilage in my right knee had completely died. Ooh. Completely. And it was like the way it was like lifted completely off of the actual knee itself. So I didn't know what to do. I was like, man, I'm like, so what does that mean? I got no clue what all this medical business mean. I'm
exactly.
just like, hey, like, am I gonna be able to am I good to play? Like, how long is it gonna take? A week or two? And he told me, he was like, well, the only issue is the reason why you've been feeling so much pain in that knee is because you're basically bone on bone right now. And I was like, oh, like damn, okay, that's crazy. Well, what's the fix for it? Because I'm trying to get back out there.
Exactly.
I haven't seen the field in 9 months now, so I'm like, I'm ready to get back out there. And it was like, well, the only issue is the way your injury is. What we have to do is we have to go in and basically scrape out all the old cartilage, drill 2 holes into the actual knee itself, and make the blood basically start a new cartilage. So that can be like your new cartilage, as you can say. So it's called a microfracture surgery. Just to kind of don't know, if you know, but Amari Stoudemire, he had the same surgery for his knee. And Greg Odom, he had the same thing with his knee. So he told me, he's like, well, it's a 50-50 chance. 50-50 chance because if you can come back and play, or if you can't, because it takes up to a year and a half for it to completely heal. So I was like, oh man, I'm all right, cool, And so I had the surgery done, got back to rehabbing and getting back together, and was feeling really good. But I could tell at the time frame, which no shots fired at anybody, don't blame anybody, but I could tell, it was taking me so long where it was all right, like, yeah, he's not coming back, like he's done, And I told myself, I'm like, I'm not going to let that happen. Like, I refuse to let that happen. I refuse to just be written off. Like, no, not going to happen. So after months and months of rehabbing and training, I finally was able to come back and play. And then I played 1 game against Iowa, my 4th year. It was a little rusty because, like I said, I didn't play a game in almost 2 years.
Exactly.
So it was tough. It was tough, but I was able to do it. And then I noticed right after the game, swelling. My knee was as big as a watermelon, and I was feeling pain again. So I saw the doctor, and he told me, he said, hey, listen, he said, you're probably going to deal with this for the rest of your career just because of the severity of the injury, and you didn't actually have full 100% time to, recover from this stuff like that. And he told me, naturally with the position also, I was going to have complications. It was tough. That's not what I wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear that. Yeah. I wanted to hear all good news. And he told me, he was like, well, listen, he was like, you can try to, play through this, but, you probably want to take a game or 2 off here and there. And, if you come back next year to play and stuff like that. And then, that was going in my 5th year. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, if I'm only going to play, 6 games and I got to deal with this injury, like that's going to be tough. And he was like, yeah. And you're going to have severe arthritis in that knee. Also, you're just going to have a bunch of complications with it later down the line, but not too much later, more sooner, yeah. If that makes sense, And so, I kind of sat there and made a decision like, all right, like, well, what do I want to do? And I kind of, brought the coaching staff together and brought everybody together. And I was kind of told my, hey, And I appreciate the support. I appreciate, everything y'all have done for me, getting me back and everything, but I'm making the decision to step away from the game. It wasn't a easy decision, because I loved football. That's all, it's all I knew. But, I had to, because I started thinking down the line, like, okay, well, when I have kids, like, will I be able to run with them? Like, I don't want to be that dad, sitting in the chair and, oh, you guys go play without me. Like, no, I want to be out there, running and playing and doing all types of stuff, with my kids. So it was tough, but I think I made the best decision for me.
Usually, though, like, you get things like that gets people down. Like, especially you made it all the way to D1 level, and you actually got your playing time. It's got that starting role. And I read in a little interview you did, you said something where you said, when asked about if you were disappointed in your career, you responded with, you didn't regret it happened because it was a great learning experience. Can you talk a little bit about like why you ended up taking up that mindset and like how you took up that mindset?
Definitely. I'll tell you. So, playing college ball, you can definitely attest for yourself that you develop a mentality where it's like, hey, like you're a soldier, you know what I mean? And you put it all out there on the field. So when the injury happened, I felt empty. I felt like I had like nothing. You know what I mean? Like, man, like this is what I had, and it's taken away from me. So it kind of steered me down a dark path of just being depressed and not talking to my friends. I'm talking because it was times where I'm ashamed to say it now, but it was times where people would call and text me and stuff to kind of check in on me, and I just completely ignore it. Like I just kind of stayed in my own little world, you know what I mean? And I know that wasn't the best thing to do at all until I had to actually one day sit there and like tell myself like, hey, like get out of this damn funk. Like stop feeling sorry for yourself and go make it happen, So, the reason why I say like, that whole process of rehabbing and getting back to playing, I definitely say it definitely helped build my character. And that's some adversity I have never faced ever in my life that I can say I actually, conquered on the bright side of coming back and being able to play. You know what I mean? And that was my whole goal. I didn't care if the coach just told me, hey, yeah, we passing you up, or hey, we probably not going to play you. That's okay. That's fine. I'm doing this for me. This isn't for you guys. This isn't for nobody. It's for me. It's for me to prove to myself that I am worthy, and I will come back against all odds to being able to play. You know what I mean? And that was a battle, because rehabbing and trying to get back for, I think, to the precise time, it was a year and 9 months precisely that, it was just being out the game, and literally every single day rehabbing, every single day working out, every single day running, to the point, where, how there's some, guys, they love their off days. They had their off days and relax, when they don't have practice. And when it was off season, I was still working Saturday and Sunday. I didn't have an off season, when it was whatever off day it was during the week, I was still in the training room. I was still in the field doing stuff with my trainers and the strength staff and stuff like that. So I didn't give up on myself. And then my whole biggest thing was to stay positive through it all. You know what I mean? Because I could tell something like that can consume somebody. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to be that person. I didn't. So, I didn't really show, my friends and family, me being down and me being depressed and stuff like that. It was one of those things where I had to treat it as if like, like as if I everything is good. Everything is, sunlight outside, bright, beautiful, even if it was tough days where I didn't feel that way or didn't believe in that. But the more I kept telling myself to believe it, and the more I kept working, it started to settle in and started to be, concrete into my brain, where at that point I was like, hell, sky's the limit. Like I can't stop now. Like I got to keep going.
Exactly. So I like to ask all my guests this: what does the future of Richie Worship look like?
Future of Richie Worship. Okay. Well, number one, a healthy knee. that's number one. But no, in all seriousness, I gotta say the future for Richie Worship is just honestly just to find my purpose, to find what my calling is, And I thought it was football, but hey, God showed me like, this isn't your calling, and I believe He has a plan for everyone, So right now, technically, I moved down to Houston. I got a job working for Kirby Corporation. But other than that, it's great. I have no issues with it at all. I love it, actually. I think it's just more of how can I give back? And I think once I figure that out and how to approach that, I think that the sky's the limit again, and then I'll have another goal, another achievement to hit looking forward.
I like to wrap up every episode with what I simply call Motivation Monday. Adversity and challenges are faced, and we often talk about them on this podcast. Do you have anything for someone who's going through some tough times, or just a piece of advice for all our listeners starting the week on their Monday morning?
Definitely. Number one thing I can say is, it's kind of off the word adversity. I firmly hold, or you're going to come out on top. Plain and simple. And what does everybody say? The saying goes, pressure creates diamonds. I firmly believe that, and I firmly feel that I live that. So my biggest quote that I can say right now is adversity builds character.
I like that. And with that, that's a wrap on another episode of the Roughnecks podcast. Thank you, Richie, for joining. Even though we've never met, I really appreciate it. It was a really great conversation. It means a lot to me that you would join not knowing me at all.
Oh, yeah, no, thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity, man. And, I think I love the podcast. It's awesome, and I'm going to keep in tune with it, sir.
I appreciate it. With that, Roughnecks out.
That was my conversation with former Purdue running back Richie Worship. Considering this was the first time I have ever met the guy, he is a great guy and was very happy he was willing to take the time out of his day to join the show. Thank you for all the Roughnecks listeners out there. If you liked this week's episode, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Follow us on Instagram at Roughnecks Podcast and Twitter at RoughnecksPodC1. You can email me at roughneckspodcast@gmail.com. Hope to see you next week. But for now, Roughnecks out.